Now, can even I see who's coming in?
If you open the panelists or the participants, and they can hear us now.
Oh. I wish I could see everyone.
It would be nice.
I know.
Welcome, welcome. We're just going to wait for everyone to jump in the room before we get started.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Heather. People are going too fast. It's good to see you too, Eric, even though we can't see you, but I wish we could. Hi, Stephanie.
I look like this.
My audio sounds funny.
We will wait just a few minutes for everyone.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick note. We are going to record this session so we can put it on the website. So you know the recording has begun. So we are recording. Thank
Your
you.
questions won't be asked with your name attached to them, so you don't have to worry about that. They won't be asked out loud with your name
Right.
attached to them, I should say.
There's so many people here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join us. We really appreciate it.
We should be playing our camp music.
I know. I feel like we should be doing something. This is very uncampy.
We could ask Phil to sing.
We could, or maybe he can do Golden Boy. No, I guess Phil's not responding.
No, he's not going to sing for us tonight.
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's see. It is 7:35, so I think we will start. We like to reward people for being on time to meetings. That's how we operate. So again, as Heather said, thank you so much for being here tonight. I don't know everybody. I know our Kochavim family. So my name is Eva Cowan. I'm the unit head for Kochavim, which is our program for teens and young adults with disabilities. Heather?
I'm Heather Strauss. I direct the inclusion program, which is our inclusion services, which is the supports that we have in place for our school-aged campers through age 12.
And Heather and I have both been a part of camp for 27 to 35 years. So
lots and lots
we are. And Phil, want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Phil Leifson. I am the camp director for Camp JCC. And this will be the 6th summer that I will be with Camp JCC. And I am very fortunate to have learned lots of wonderful things from both Heather and Eva. And I'm excited to be part of Camp JCC, be part of the community, and to be here tonight and help answer any questions.
So here, just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So you should know that you may walk away feeling like you didn't get a lot of your questions answered. And the reason for that is that we are having to plan camp as if it was taking place today, as if all the restrictions that are in place today were in place for camp. We have great hope that things will change between now and June. And as things change, we will evolve right along with it. We will, um, change our plans, loosen restrictions that we're able to loosen, but the situation we're in is having to plan as if camp was taking place right now. So please bear with us if we say, we can't answer some questions with certainty. In fact, there's a lot of questions we can't answer with certainty, but we're going to do our best, and we are going to put our information up for you to have. And so we are here, just as always, to answer your questions along the way between now and June. So we are asking that you ask general questions that most likely apply to other families as well. If you have very specific questions about your specific child or teen, please get in touch with one of us, afterwards or tomorrow, and we're more than happy to have individual conversations. What we're going to ask you to do is type, after we go through a short presentation that might answer some of your questions, we will ask you to type them in the chat. And then Phil, I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. We ask you to type them in the Q&A, and Phil will answer them. We'll ask them out loud for us to answer. So Heather, do you have anything to add?
No, just that we're really excited to be talking about camp. I know that Eva and I camp has been a major part of our lives for a long, long time. So it's while we don't know where we're going to be in June, one of the things that we do know is that we're actively planning for Camp JCC, which is very, very, very exciting. There is a question, and I just want to make sure before we get started, Eva, about answering questions. Stephanie, I know you asked do you ask questions in the Q&A function or the chat function? We would like it asked in the Q&A section because it's being recorded. It will be easier to make sure everyone's questions get answered in the Q&A. Is that correct, Phil?
Yes.
You are correct. Yes. And it will allow us to have a transcript of it so we can make sure we address things and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. So again, we're planning for camp as if it's taking place tomorrow. And so as of now, what we believe is that it will be entirely outdoors, entirely. Groups will meet outdoors. There will not be an option for being indoors. And that is what entirely outdoors means. As of now, masks will be required all day, which means that your kids and us, you have to be able to wear the mask all day. It doesn't mean that maybe every couple hours or once an hour, you take a walk away from the group, take a mask breather for a minute or two and come back. But it does mean that the mask has to be worn all day. We will have modified swim procedures, and we wish we could tell you what that means and what that looks like. We are trying to figure out how we provide the kind of support in the pool that we're used to providing, hands-on support, campers that need to be held in the pool, given the fact that the safest way to operate is with masks, but that masks are not safe in the pool. We also, as of now, are not thinking that we will be able to have necessarily swim instruction at this time. Right now, we are also working under the assumption that we won't be able to take field trips. And the groups will be no more than 15, including staff and campers. Okay.
The other thing about swim I do want to highlight is for campers who may not be able to swim, whether because of their swim level or other things, we're looking at doing some on land water play for campers who may not be able to use the pool. And if there are flotation devices needed, they will need to meet certain safety regulations that we're working with our aquatic staff. I'm making sure that those go out to parents as well.
Correct. Okay. Also, it may be confusing to learn this now based on one of the questions on our assessment, but we have learned that we can provide personal care, including help in the bathroom, diaper changing, feeding, as long as the counselors providing that care are wearing appropriate PPE. and we'll be working more around what that looks like. But that was something that last summer we were advised that we couldn't do, and have learned through a lot of different working with different camps who did run last summer and learning best practices and what's allowed, that we should be able to do that. Personal vehicles will be the only means of transportation. So as of now, there's no bus transportation to and from camp. Again, that's as of now. As of now, we are not able to offer extended day, AM or PM. And in the past, we've been able to have OTs and PTs and school consultants come into camp to provide services for campers. And it looks like that won't be advisable again as of now. Anything to add to that, Heather?
No.
The guidance that we're following, CDC guidance, of course, state government, county government, American Camp Association, our medical panel, and then we are all individually and together talking to other camp directors, other camps that run programs similar to ours, to find out what their plans are, what they have learned to be best practices. So there's a lot of sharing and brainstorming going on, because everybody wants to do this, and everybody wants to do that as much as we can in as safe a way as we can. So that kind of collaborating is going on a weekly basis with other people. The pods that we're talking about, as I explained, 15 people, staff and campers total. The pods will not mix at all. So they, as in the past, groups have gotten together. We've all had opening under the tent together. As of now, we will need to stay in our pods, which means that campers will need to be able to do that. We do have campers that are very social and like to wander camp and like to visit other groups and visit their friends in other groups. And you know what? Under normal circumstances, we encourage that. That's what camp is about. But as of now, and operating the way we believe we'll have to operate now, campers will have to be able to stay with their groups.
And we are going to have opportunities for campers to take breaks if they need to take breaks. We are going to have designated spaces within camp for kids to take breaks, to engage in sensory experiences if they need that. We will not be using the sensory room this summer, obviously, because it's indoors and it's a very small space. But we will be bringing some of making sure that there are opportunities for campers to do some of those activities during camp. I know in the past we have supplied a lot of, we've had headphones and we've had squishy balls and we've had Theraputty and other things. We are looking at, we're not going to be able, there are certain things that we're not going to be able to have campers share, and headphones are going to be one of them. So if we're going to ask families that if their child needs noise canceling headphones, so that's something that they send in. In regards to some of the other fidgets and toys and sensory tools that we have had campers share at camp, we're really working on what that's going to look like and what campers should bring in for their own and what we can provide as a camp.
Correct. Okay. The environment and what that will look like. And again, this is still being created in our minds, and that's what we like to do. We're creative, fortunately. So, we will come up with an environment that works. But basically, each pod will have its own tent. And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, not an enclosed tent, a tent that's like our big yellow tent, where it's a covered space, but it's not an enclosed space.
Correct. It is a roofed space, but not an enclosed space.
Right, which is safer and cooler than an actual tent would be. Restrooms will be in restroom trailers, and if you and they will be accessible. And if you envision, I don't know if you've been to sports tournaments or sometimes concerts, they're really almost like buildings that are put out there. So don't think porta potties, think something a step up from that are actually buildings that will be put on the lawn. Changing areas will likely be outdoors, but tents. We've done this in Kochavim. We actually have a traveling changing room that we take when we're going to a space that doesn't have an accessible space for changing. We have adult-sized changing tables, and we have tents, and so our changing rooms will be like that. Obviously, they will have walls so that they have privacy, but they will also have the necessary ventilation that they will need to be safe and usable and meet the standards that they need to meet. Okay. So we'll put this up again at the end, but this is, most of you have this, but these are our email addresses. Reach out anytime. Again, we're happy to have conversations with you about it. We know that this is hard. We know that it's hard to make these decisions without having a lot of information. And so we're happy to share with you everything we know as we know it. So with that, I think, Phil, do you want to start sharing some of the questions?
Yeah, so thank you for those of you that have already submitted questions. We just went over the bathroom one, so I think that one was covered. The next one is, will we still be offering programs like putting on the hits and J games?
That's a great question. It's probably a Phil question.
So yes, as Guy is working with the team as well and putting together things, we are reimagining and re-envisioning how we can still do some of those favorites and staples. And again, all of those programs will be things that are adjusted and modified to make sure that they're safe for the times. But we do know that those have a tendency to be the campers' favorites. So we don't want to miss out on those kinds of things. So they will happen. They will have an energy around them that campers have come to know and love. But just like many things, we're going to have to adjust it just to make sure that it is still safe in the times that we're living.
Right. And I think that's key, is that we want camp to feel as much like camp as possible. So all the traditions and all the fun things that we had in the past, we're going to work to continue them.
So the next question is, what are plans for rainy days and for code red and hot days?
I think that's another great Phil question.
So thanks. So we, as Eva and Heather have mentioned, we are making our plans and we are coming up with as many options and opportunities as we can to make sure that what we are providing for campers is safe for everyone. And I can tell you that, similar to, as Eva, I think, was mentioning, we're working with local camps and communities and the county and the Department of Health and all of those wonderful organizations. We actually are creating a task force between a bunch of the local camp directors where we will check in with each other and make sure that we're all operating in the same similar conditions when it comes to, if it's a light rain, we can make sure that we have kids in safe spaces outside and what have you. But if it's one of those more severe days, we will adjust accordingly and make sure that we are providing things that are safe for campers and staff. Now, I can tell you, last year when there was one of those derecho days where it was going to be a lightning storm all day, the county actually chimed in and said, don't operate your camps today. And obviously, if we get any notices like that, we will make sure that we do what we need to do to keep everyone safe. Next one is, will some campers be able to have dedicated aides as in the past? Thanks so much for all of your great work. Camp JCC back in. We can't wait to get Camp JCC back up and running.
So yes, the same level of support will be available for campers this summer. It's going to look a little bit different. I mean, some of the things we were able to do in the past, we may not be able to do when we're really looking at some of the behavior management techniques that we use. When we looked at using, like the sensory room and being able to take breaks down there, or being able to go and take a walk around the building. Those are things that, like Eva said, we're gonna be providing the support, and how we use that support may look a little bit different. But inclusion staff and Kochavim staff are going to start being hired soon. So that's exciting.
Great. Our next question is, what happens if a camper cannot tolerate a mask or is not supposed to wear a mask because, one, they cannot take it off themselves? Should that family not expect to attend camp?
So if camp were happening tomorrow, that's correct. That unfortunately, and again, Heather and I have been very honest with all of you, each of you that we've had individual conversations with. This is really hard for us to go technically backwards on what we've been able to do in normal times. But yes, as of now, if we were to operate camp under these conditions, if a camper can't wear a mask, even for their own safety, they would not be able to come to camp because of the belief that there's an ability to pass the virus, even if you don't have symptoms. And so it's not just for that camper safety, but the safety of the campers and staff around them. So again, that's why we've been so strong on the mask requirement for now.
Thank you. The next one is, can campers attend for part of the day, or do they have to stay the entire day because of pickup protocols?
So it is up to parent discretion when they pick up their campers, as it always has been at Camp JCC. We are not offering a half-day option. The other thing that our medical board has advised us against is, in the past, we've had campers come who attended ESY in the morning and came to us in the afternoon. And because of the mixing of groups in that situation, we're not going to be able to accommodate that this year. I'm sorry, I have a lot going on in my house right now. I don't know if anybody is, I think my dog's coming in right now, and the wonders of working from home. So we're not going to be able to accommodate ESY this summer. And if parents want to pick up their camper early because of heat, because of whatever reason, they certainly are able to do that, but they would be enrolled in the full day program.
All right, thank you. The next question is, what will you do to help cool the children down outside? Are there jumbo fans?
Phil.
Yeah. So in some of our discussions, we do know we have been authorized at this time that fans are okay because they're just circulating the air, which is the reason we want to be outside, and wind kind of things. We are looking into the concept or the opportunity to use things like misters. And again, there's our medical team and other folks are talking. There's talk over the moist air or wet air being circulated. So that one hasn't been approved yet, but it is another thing we are looking into. But again, until we can get the go ahead that it is safe and able to be used, that one isn't on the table. But yes, fans, yes, as Heather mentioned, we also are going to look at water play or land water opportunities and things like that. And anything we can do to beat the heat, because obviously this is Montgomery County, Maryland, and beating the heat is going to be the name of the game.
And also, there are some things that you can also buy and provide. I have 3 kids that all played sports and summer tournaments, and there are like these very cool cooling towels that you can put around your neck that actually work. So, you know, as it gets closer to camp, we can be recommending some of those things that you can also provide for your campers.
All right. Our next question, could there be virtual field trips, even like one night or night a month or something like that?
I think all of those ideas are on the table. Like I said, we're having to be very creative. I know that a lot of camps did some virtual field trips. So, I mean, I would say it's on the table for sure.
Okay. Will purchasing lunch still be an option, or should we plan to bring coolers?
Good question.
For me?
Yeah, that's Phil's question.
Okay. So at this time, we are actually being advised to not necessarily be providing snack or lunches, even if it's coming from an outside source. So we are looking at asking families to provide their own lunches and snacks and things like that. In terms of refrigerator space, we do still have our industrial refrigerators. We can utilize counselors bringing the lunches to the refrigerators and things like that. So that is still on the table. It'll require a little bit more time, but yeah, we can still put lunches in the fridges, so that is a go. Okay, our next one, will the inclusion one-on-one counselor be able to accompany the camper in the changing tent as well if needed?
Yes. So once again, all of the supports are going to be in place. If a camper needs support with changing, obviously we would provide that level of support. And one of the things we're going to be working with staff on is appropriate PPE for appropriate situations. So what staff is wearing during art is going to look different than if they're doing personal care. And we're going to be looking at the tiered levels of PPE, how they use them appropriately, and matching PPEs to the situation at hand.
As well as training all the staff on how to use it, how to put it on and take it off safely and dispose of it safely.
So just a moment of housekeeping. I do have some other questions here about weather. I think we've touched on those. If you do feel like you would like to know more information, if you don't mind resubmitting those, but for now, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. So what about mealtime? What happens during mealtime? Here's a rainy day, so we covered that piece, and our children will one-on-ones be provided. So it looks like the only one we haven't gotten to is mealtime. What does that look like?
Right. That's Phil.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay, so for those that are not aware, we are currently operating a virtual school hosting program at the JCC. So we're learning a lot from that, as well as talking to our community and our colleagues across the county and the country. And so basically what mealtime is going to look like, that will obviously be a time of day when campers need to remove their masks. So on days when the weather is nice and folks want to sit out, the kids are going to have, each group will have, as Eva or Heather mentioned, they'll have a tent, they'll have a picnic table, and they'll have a clearly defined area that is theirs, right? It'll be defined with a spray painted outline on the ground. Maybe the kids will have an opportunity to decorate cones they can put around their area as well. So they know this is my spot, this is my kind of bubble that we play in. And then from there, during lunchtime, if the kids wanted to sit at the tables, they could sit at the tables. If they wanted to put out picnic blankets or things like that, we can space the kids out on those and they can have a picnic lunch out. But when the kids are unmasked, they will need to be spaced. And you know, as long as things are going well and what have you, they'll still be able to play. Maybe the counselors put on some music so they can listen to some things. But anytime the masks come off, we are absolutely going to make sure and have to make sure that the kids are spaced appropriately and that there's not any possibility of scenarios happening that are avoidable.
The only caveat that I would add to that is, can you hear me? Okay. The only caveat I would add to that is for campers who need help with eating or need feeding, that will be another time where the counselor will be able to assist and just will be wearing appropriate PPE, masking, face shields, gloves, etc. So if you're concerned because your child needs someone to help them, we will be able to do that.
Will we have nurses at camp throughout the day?
Yes. Yes, we will still have nurses at camp. Absolutely. Same, again, the same kind of nursing that we have provided in the past, we will be able to provide.
Is there appropriate ventilation in the bathrooms, and will there be a limit on how many people can use the bathroom at once?
I think that would also be a Phil question.
Okay, so as we are planning and prepping for the bathrooms, we, for what I believe is the first time in Camp JCC history, we are going to have somebody whose job is going to be to clean and sanitize the restrooms. And basically the way it'll work is a group will go to the trailer, they will send the kids in, barring an emergency, they will send the kids in one at a time to use the restroom. And unfortunately, if there is an emergency situation, obviously we will make sure that our campers are not having accidents. So we will limit, again, the number of people in each of the restroom areas. But yes, there will be limited access. And then once a group is finished, someone will go in, clean and sanitize the space before the next group comes in to utilize the restroom facilities as well. So, yeah. Okay. Another question, if my camper can't wear a mask, should I apply now, or should I wait and see if the regulations loosen?
Again, that is a tough one for us to tell you what to do. As of now, we just have to go with believing that masks will be required. And so it's kind of up to you how you want to work your registration. So you can apply and then up until March 1st, you can withdraw and lose your deposit. After that time, Phil, you'll have to be more explicit about exactly the way the refund policy works after March 1st. But you kind of have until March 1st to see how things go, and forfeit your deposit. After that, it's a different story.
Okay, so as Eva mentioned, the only thing you'll lose before March 1st is your $150 per child, and that's total if you're there for 1 week or 10 weeks or however it works out for you. And then once we start doing the payment installments in March, so as of March 1st will be the first draw for those who select installments. And basically the way it's worded is if you make your 1/3 payment, which would be in March 1st, all of the funds that you have processed through Camp JCC up to that point, 50% becomes non-refundable and 50% is due back to you if you decide. So February 28th, you send us an email and say, I'm not coming to camp for whatever that reason is, then all you've lost is $150. And then once you start making payments, it's basically 50% of what you've paid is still eligible to you.
And again, I'm not able to make exact predictions or promises. If by some miracle things were to go back to what normal looks like for us, then conceivably, as camp got closer, we'd be able to expand the number of campers that we serve and open things back up. Again, it's not a promise, so I don't want it taken as I'm just going to wait and then definitely have a spot come May. But if things really, really get so much better, then it is conceivable that we could open up more spots.
I
And
think,
so
our goal is to have it be as normal as an experience as it can be, given the conditions when camp opens. And, as we're making decisions and policies and regulations, we're really doing it based on what's going on right now, and know that we have to shift as the situation changes. So, like Eva said, we're all trying to make the best decisions we can, given the current metrics and the current advice from the medical professionals.
Tying into that subject, I'm jumping ahead. I'll get back to the others. Has there been any reduction in spaces for inclusion and Kochavim due to the restrictions, i.e. the number of campers? So,
Yeah.
So I would like to point out that yes, however, in addition, whatever transition word, that is true for the entirety of camp, right? The entirety of camp has been reduced. For those of you that have seen camp in action, we in a typical summer can be serving up to 500 kids at a time at Camp JCC, which is amazing. And in the tent, if we've got our 500 kids and our 250 staff, 750 people singing Montrose Road, and it's amazing. And we didn't get to see that last year, and it was heartbreaking for all of us. This year, we are capping camp in total. All of our campers are 250. So we are reducing the capacity of camp in total. And everything is happening in kind and in ratio. And so all of our spots have been cut. So that one. Thank you for doing this. How will Kochavim activities be different and similar to a non-COVID summer?
So that's a great question. The activities themselves, art, music, drama, sports, will do those things. They'll definitely look different. I mean, art was indoors and a lot of things were indoors, but we're just kind of moving all the activities that we did and bringing them outdoors the best we can. So the biggest difference for Kochavim is in normal times, we take field trips twice a week, and we won't be able to do that again, as of now, this summer. So that will be a difference, but we will try to do kind of special activities at least once a week, maybe twice a week, to sort of simulate the idea of having a different day like a field trip day is. So we may do, our own programming. We're looking at whether or not we can bring in outside guests as long as for entertainment or instruction, as long as they are not, in close proximity with the campers. So all of that is being looked at, but the way it's going to be the same is the same, dedicated, excited staff. They're going to be in the same groups with a lot of the campers that they know, the songs that they're used to, the games that they're used to. And so, like Heather said, we're going to try and make it as similar as possible. So.
Okay. There is a shout out for a virtual field trip to the Museum of Modern Art.
Okay.
Okay.
will kids interact with other staff members outside of their counselors? Will they do some sort of a rotation?
So I don't know if this is going to answer your question. Um, we are potting everyone. Everyone is going to stay in a stable cohort. While we're still going to have specialists like we have in the past, they're going to be teaching from a distance, whether it's sports or art or dance or drama. But what we're not going to have is, in the past, especially in inclusion, when we were doing music, the Strudos and the Rugalas may have had music together. And that's what's not going to happen. So each group is going to be a stable cohort that stays together the whole time. And the only time that they'll be interacting with people outside of their cohort is when they're going to those specials. And again, those specialists are going to be teaching from the specific distance. And I think it's going to be 6 feet, as 6 or 10 feet from what I understand right now.
Okay, thank you. So next, if children are getting overheated from wearing masks in the hot DC sun, or in the DC heat, sorry, is there a chance of cooling down inside at all? This is concerning.
And we hear you. And we are, I mean, as of right now, what we can tell you right now, that is not going to be an option. Going indoors is not going to be an option as of right now. Could that change? That could change. But if we opened camp today, we would not be able to have campers inside. We are going to have tents. We are going to have cooling stations. We are working on what that's going to look like and all of the parameters around that. But going inside to cool down is not going to be an option at this point.
Another note on field trips. When is the
Any
latest?
suggestions? If anyone's done good virtual field trips, send them our way. We're definitely open for recommendations.
When is the latest date that families can decide whether or not they would want their children to attend camp given the restrictions and would not be a good fit? If not, can credit be rolled over to summer 22?
So I know Phil and Eva talked a little bit about the refund policy, that until March 1st, you would forfeit your deposit. After that, I think, Phil, you did lay out the refund policy. I don't know if it would be worth saying that again. And I'm not quite sure about the rolling over, Phil. That is definitely a question. Operations are definitely a question for Phil.
Yes. So you can absolutely roll over again. We absolutely know that it may not be the right fit for everyone this summer, and unfortunately, we wish that wasn't the case. But yes, if you wanted to, if you had rolled over from 20 to 21 and you'd like to go to 22, that is fine. If you've started making payment, no one has yet, but if you do start to make payments in 21 and you want to roll to 22, that would also be an option for families. Just to recap the policy, upon enrollment for summer of 2021, it is $150 total per camper, and that is non-refundable. And then you have until March 1st, which is when the first installment payment is going to be made. Installments we have 3 installment payments. It's automatically a third of the total balance that's left on the account. The $150 does get credited towards the total payment for camp. So whatever you have left, you have a third that's due on March 1st. And then once payments start to be collected, 50% of what has been paid is still refundable to families. And no outside food available to purchase, correct? Campers will need to bring water and food for the day. We will have water stations that counselors can go and refill the kids' water bottles and things like that. So please know that we will make sure we always have water coolers available. In previous summers, we are diligent as we can be to make sure kids aren't putting hands and things like that into water coolers. This summer, it will absolutely be a mandate. We will probably add devices to the cooler so no one can get the lids off. But yes, campers will be able to refill water bottles. We will have plenty of that available for everyone, potentially even a cooler per group, things like that. But at this time, at this moment, families will be providing food and lunch and snack and all that good stuff. Okay. So happy camp is happening this summer. Not a question, just want to thank you all for working through strategizing and prioritizing inclusion. Okay. My child can wear a mask, but he hasn't had to wear one all day. I don't know if they can tolerate it all day, or maybe they will occasionally want to take it off. If camp finds that they are not wearing their mask all day and they can't stay in camp, can we get a refund?
I'll let Phil confirm or answer that, but I think the answer, like in other situations in the summer, is that you would likely not get a refund. And I'll let, maybe Phil has a different answer to that. But I think what we recommend is that campers start practicing and start little by little doing it more and more. And then take your family on a little field trip for the day to the zoo or to wherever, and just work up to being able to wear it all day. And again, we can do mask breaks. We can do reasonable mask breaks, you know, to go take a breather and come back. What we can't have is that happening several times an hour. You know, that's what I would recommend. Phil, you can be more explicit on the refund part of the question.
Yeah, so I'm processing in my head to think of what I can relate it to. But as Eva said, typically we would not be able to give a refund for something like this. I will confirm and reach out to, I can see the name of who submitted the question, but no, I don't believe that we will be able to give a refund for this scenario. So please, as we're saying, you know, try practicing, start now, and hopefully, you know, we can figure out ways to make sure that our campers are wearing their masks again, to not only keep the camper themselves safe, but all of the campers around them and staff.
I think another way to think about it is, you know, we have campers in summer, every summer, that are new to us, and we do a whole intake process and we learn as much as we can, and we decide together whether camp is a good fit for that camper with all the best information that we have. And so that's sort of this same situation, is everybody's going to have to really, really think about the decision and whether or not you think your camper can wear a mask all day. And if not, you know, the safer decision might sadly be not to sign up for camp. But again, we realize this is unprecedented, and that's why we're kind of doing all this now, to try and figure this out, to try to help you think about it, and to think about practicing with the mask, and also trying out different masks. Some masks are much easier to wear in the heat than other masks.
Along the lines of masks, I'm going to skip ahead for a moment. Will campers be allowed to take their masks off for eating, drinking, and water breaks?
Yes.
Yes, that's an easy one. Okay.
Can kids use face shields instead of masks?
So I haven't had that question before, but I know my daughter's a teacher in Arizona, and that's not, you cannot substitute the face shield for a mask. You can wear a face shield with a mask, but it doesn't offer the same level of protection in terms of breathing. So
the best advice that we're seeing and hearing right now is, even though the NFL did not portray this, the face shield is not a close enough barrier. There's too much of a gap that things can get in and out of. So for the wearer and for others, again, face shield alone is not necessarily what is being recommended. However, if a camper or staff member, and again, there's PPE situations where it's required. On the flip side, if you did want your child to wear a mask and face shields, we would absolutely, that's a family choice, and that can happen.
And we're going to have counselors, again, when we talked about curating the PPEs, we are going to have counselors at times wearing face shields when the situation calls for it. In addition to a mask. Yes. Sorry. Not alone. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, you're fine. Will we require campers and staff to take temperatures and fill out COVID symptom questionnaires before arrival?
That's a great question for you, Phil.
Current county regulations that we are currently abiding by for both our preschool and for our Club J program do require families to fill out a short questionnaire daily. It is something that is filled out at home and submitted, and then you get a QR code that is scanned upon arrival. As part of that process currently, it does require, like I said, several questions and the submission of a temperature check that is within 2 hours of the campers or students arriving to the JCC. if camp was to start today, this would be what we were following. In the future, they may add more questions. They may take away questions. We are going to do whatever the county and everyone is asking for us. So it is a fluid situation. I don't know what that will look like, in a couple of months. But as of right now, yes, that is something that all students that come for preschool, and then also anyone who may or may not be working out at the JCC, they're filling out those same things as well. The process is a little different to go to the fitness center, but for kids and staff working at Club J and preschool, that is what they're doing. Thank you again, everyone, for all of the questions. I still have a bunch more and more coming in. So will inclusion counselors be given a camper? Will inclusion counselors be giving campers their medicine, or will the nurse be stationed outside to do that?
That's good, Phil. Question.
That's a great,
Yeah.
Phil. And before some of these questions, I do want to say, I don't know if we've gotten that far into the granular with all of these things. Know that we are going to have nursing staff. Medication is going to be administered. It has not been our practice to have staff give medicine. It has been our practice to have the nurses give medication. So I don't necessarily see that changing. And I don't know how far into that level of planning we've gotten right now.
I can answer it this way. There are certain medications that must be delivered and administered by nurses. So for those, obviously, we will follow all medical protocols and things of that nature to keep everyone safe and keep things private for HIPAA purposes. If there are certain medications that the nurses can supervise the counselors to give, we might be able to do things like that. But it really is going to be medically dependent on what the medication is and how it is administered and delivered. So. If you have specific questions about your camper and their medicines, please feel free to reach out, and we would be happy to run that by our medical team to make sure that we are giving you the most accurate and correct answer for a child and their particular medications. This one seems to have been a double submission. We answered that. Do you reapply sunscreen during the day for campers?
Yes.
Again, I mean, we've always encouraged campers to learn to put on their own sunscreen, but the counselors should be able to help, again, with gloves, with appropriate masking, etc.
A couple other questions about the daily arrival and temperature taking. Will campers and staff be expected to pass COVID testing before coming to camp? Thanks.
Phil.
Okay. So along with the questionnaire that the county is having us ask, which is the basic screeners for that, at this time, we don't believe that campers are going to have to be taking COVID tests in a weekly format or things of that nature. Now, if families have a high risk exposure and something comes up that is caught in the questionnaire, then there may need to be a COVID test before a camper can return to camp. But at this time, we do not anticipate any daily or weekly testing on the part of temperatures. We've got that one. What happens if a camper or counselor is either exposed or test positive for COVID? Will the entire pod be quarantined? Yes. So this one is laid out for us very cleanly by the county, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but if anyone's had the fun of contact tracing, the short version is if a positive test does come up, anyone who has direct exposure to that case, which would be everyone in the pod, would have to quarantine for a certain amount of time. And again, as we're projecting into the future, that number of days has been discussed, and it may fluctuate. So we will wait until the county gives us whatever those current regulations are. But if there's a direct exposure in a group, the entire pod will quarantine, yes. Okay. If we do not end up attending after March 1st, can you push the funds? Yes, you can roll things over to 2022. Thank you. If we still have openings, what is the latest day that you can apply?
If we still have opening, you can apply the day before camp, providing that your camper is a returning camper, which all of you are.
So in order to have all of the appropriate medical forms and everything in hand,
True.
yes, typically we say a week before camp, and that's just to ensure that we have all of the appropriate medical documentation and things like that. If you wanted to get all of that ahead of time and what have you, then yes, that would be possible to maybe push that 1 week a little bit, but typically we say 1 week.
I think
do
this is,
wanna,
ahead.
oh, sorry, Eva. Do you want
no,
me
we're
to?
probably going to say the same thing. So go ahead.
Probably because we're connected that way.
Right.
Given, I do want to say, and we so appreciate all of the referrals, and when you send us friends and family, that is like of the highest compliment to all of us. At this time, we are not able, because of the limited number of spots that we do have in all of camp, especially inclusion in Kochavim, we're not able to take brand new campers. And how we're defining new campers is people families who did not apply last year or attend in the past. So for families who applied and weren't able to come last summer, they are given returning family status, but new campers are people who are not kind of part of that queue in the past. And we're just not able to, at this time, open up spots to new families, as we're trying to make sure we're meeting the needs of our returners.
I'll just add that they are considered returning if they actually got off the wait list last year. So if you
Yep.
applied and you remained on the wait list and didn't get in, then they're not returning campers for this year. But again, we're just hoping one summer, if not this summer, we're going to go back to doing things the way we used to do them.
So the next question, how many restrooms are there? There is a magical formula that tells us how many seats we need per number of campers, and we will follow that formula as recommended by the Department of Health. In terms of the trailer itself, I believe we'll have one overall trailer, and again, the appropriate number of seats within that trailer building.
I never knew that. I just learned something new, Phil.
There you go. How does the possibility of vaccination impact these restrictions, or don't they?
Well, right now, because I've had this question a lot in conversations I've had individually with you all, and it makes perfect sense. And I would wonder the same thing. What we know now, or what we believe now, is just because someone's vaccinated, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't have the virus and shed the virus. So I'm hoping personally, we're going to find that not to be true sooner rather than later. But as of now, it has not been clearly defined that if you are vaccinated, that other people are protected from getting it from you, if that makes sense.
The vaccine also is not for use under anyone, for people under the age of 16.
As of now, right?
As of now.
So that's another as of now question.
How quickly will you be communicating changes as they're changing in MoCo? So if some restrictions are lifted, how quickly is that communicated? Just thinking in the March 1st deadline.
One thing I can say that is going to make this even more complicated is that we know that the progression of this virus has been nonlinear. So we loosen up and then we have to restrict again, and then we loosen up and then we have to restrict again. So we're hoping the presence of the virus mitigates that problem to some degree, but we just don't know. So, some of this is up to Phil into how we communicate that things have changed. But I imagine that some of what we know confidently isn't going to be known until closer to April or May.
And I'd like to add that when Montgomery County if they make changes, what have you, that information is not just automatically synthesized and sent right to the families. It has to go through our medical committee, because just because something is allowed, so to say, our medical committee still weighs in to make sure that because of our specific situations, we might have to put a filter on it. So just because the county says yes does not 100% mean that we are automatically following it, because we always can do things a little bit more strict. We cannot loosen a county regulation, but we can adhere to it in a stronger way. Hopefully that makes sense.
More, not less. And I think, we are meeting, leadership is meeting weekly right now to review, plan, look at our policies and regulation, look where things are at. So as we're getting information, we have a standing weekly leadership meeting, and we are weekly, if not daily, sometimes reviewing that information to see what we can do, where we can go, and where we're headed. So it is something at the forefront of the decisions that we're making. How do we normalize camp? How do we open this up safe as we can to the most amount of people? And how do we serve the needs of the community in the safest way we know how?
Speaking of the priority applications, if we cannot send our kids to camp, given the rules for this summer, will we still be eligible for priority applications based on our prior attendance? Yes. Yes. We know that, let me phrase it this way. We hate that all of our campers can't come back, and we are not going to penalize anyone and take them out of that priority status, because we don't want to put anyone in an unsafe situation, and we don't want that to be weighing on you and your family when you're trying to make a decision. So please know that if you are not able to attend this summer, you still will be considered a returning camper for summer of 2022. Okay. Can you clarify who can swim in the pool? If a child can't swim independently, they cannot go in the pool. Also, for kids who can swim, do they have to be able to swim in the deep end to be able to go in the pool?
So our plan, Phil, do you want to start, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can do that. Just because a camper cannot swim in the shallow end or the deep end doesn't mean that they cannot go in the pool. It may be that your camper needs to stay in an area closer to the wall if you feel like that's a safe place for them. It's going to be an open communication. We're going to make sure, their counselors are still going to be in the water with them. The lifeguards are still going to be there. We're going to have all of the layers of safety around the pool that are needed to make sure kids are safe, right? I've already spoken with Caroline. And if your camper does require some type of a flotation, she's going to make herself available that you can communicate with her and ask her, and even bring in the device or the PFD or the puddle jumper. As long as it's Coast Guard approved, she said we can have it in the pool. And if you need her to check a logo or a symbol, she's happy to do that as well. In terms of where the campers are going to be swimming or what the pool is going to look like, right now we're figuring that we're going to use the lane lines to make it so each area of the pool is an independent place for each pod, right? So as campers are swimming in the pool, they're playing with their friends and their kids in their pod. In terms of, does your camper have to be able to swim? No, but we want to make sure that the people who are going in the water have a way to be water safe. So that could be an outside device. It could be a location in the pool and things of that nature.
And I think we are continuing to work with aquatics and Department of Health around some of these issues. So we don't, while we have we don't have a very specific plan right now, because as we work through things that are going on, like Phil said, we are sectioning off the pool. The level of support that we're able to provide in the pool, we're still looking into whether or not we can physically support I'm still in school mode, campers in the pool at this time because of the mask, the requirement around masks.
And in my conversation today with Caroline, she mentioned that right now the county is not necessarily doing as much work on pools because of the current weather situation. But when they were last summer and things, they were very, very active in things, getting out updates and things like that. So when is the last date to roll to next summer? Not for a refund, but just to roll over. I think what I've seen or what is written is it's the middle of May, I believe. But I see who has asked the question, and I can send an email to confirm, but I believe it's the middle of May, and I think that's it's in the terms and conditions or on our website. If you roll funds to 2022, would that give your camper the same priority? Yes. Will we require weekly COVID testing? I think we went over that. Okay. Sorry, a couple of things we touched on. What decisions have made in the pool? Sorry, I'm gonna have to come back to that one. I don't understand that question.
I think I know it's,
Go ahead.
there's something you can put in, somebody saying, I bought the plastic piece to put in the mask to push it out to make it easier to breathe. There's something you can put inside the mask to sort of pull the fabric away from your face, but it still is tight enough around your face that it's safe. But it just pushes the fabric out a little bit so you're not constantly like
Breathing on it.
having the fabric in your face. So that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
I do apologize. It looks like the questions are not private after they've been answered, so I apologize, folks, if that is that must be true. So I apologize. Can you give some suggestions of masks that might be better in the heat?
I don't have specific ones. I mean, I can tell you that I have one that's by Mission that works when I go running, better than other masks. My daughter plays club lacrosse at school, and she said the disposable masks, the surgical disposable masks, she feels are the easiest to breathe in when you're active in the heat. So I think really it's just a matter of kind of experimenting.
I've liked the Athleta masks when I'm exercising outside. But I think a lot of it, like Eva said, is definitely personal to each person. Because I know people who don't like the mask that I like. So
Is a refund given for a quarantine situation? The camper can attend to 10 to 14 days, and will there be virtual camp on those days?
Phil,
Okay. So if we do have to shut a pod down, we absolutely will give an option for virtual camp. In terms of the timeframes and things, we are again in contact and trying to find out from the county. And as we get closer, we'll know the exact dates and what have you. But we are working on how to make sure that families are not going to have a total loss because camp had to be closed for a quarantine situation. Please know we are committing to our staff this summer that if their groups are shut down for a COVID situation, that they will continue to get paid because they are also making a strong commitment to families, and we don't want them to miss out. So please know that that will also be in the consideration. Children returning from a trip outside of state of Maryland, is there a quarantine period before they can join camp?
I don't know.
So we are looking into that as well. We know that campers are going to be attending resident camps and things of that nature where they are coming from a bubbled area where unless there is a known exposure, we know that they were in a safe space. So it's not necessarily as cut and dry as if they're coming from out of state. It's along with some of our colleagues across the county, it's talking through and figuring out what does that mean? What does that look like? So if a family is taking a public road trip where they are stopping along the way and what have you, that may be a higher risk of exposure. And so, yes, that family may be asked to not be coming to camp directly and spend a certain number of days or what have you. But for a child who is leaving a contained space and coming straight to camp and not risking possible additional exposures and things of that nature. So it's while it's not necessarily as cut and dry and black and white as yes and no, trying to portray that there is some flexibility there. And what kind of support will be provided this year? If you want to reiterate that.
Yeah, I think we addressed it, but the same kind of support we've always provided with a few exceptions, again, as of now. And it would be a discussion to have with either Heather or myself about your individual camper, but some kinds of support that require a lot of physical contact for behavioral support, a lot of physical proximity. Campers who really aren't able to stay with the group, even with counselor support, that might be something that we can't provide for this summer because of the need to stay in our pods. So that question really is a great one to have individually with either Heather or myself, and we can sort it out with you.
Does Camp JCC have its own health metrics standards that will specifically determine whether or not masks will be required prior to the start of camp? Also, you mentioned campers will not be tested, but I missed if you answered whether staff members, especially one-on-one inclusion aides, will be tested. Okay. So our health team is comprised of several doctors across a couple of different practices or types of medicine, rather. And so I don't have the detail as to whether or not we have our own metrics or if they're just looking over the county stuff and what have you, making those determinations. But know that they are medically trained and medical professionals who are making those decisions and using all of the information available, as well as knowing who Camp JCC is, right? They are looking at it specifically for us and how we operate and what we are planning on doing. In terms of staff being tested and one-on-ones, and I'm even going to throw in, it wasn't asked, will all staff have to be vaccinated? The answer is right now, we cannot, we don't know how many people will be vaccinated in Montgomery County. So in terms of requiring a vaccine is a difficult question to answer. In terms of testing staff, again, similar to the way we're working with campers and camper families, is we have the questionnaires and we have the questions. And if anybody has any exposures and things like that, that would require the need for a test, they will take that test. When it comes to our staff meetings and our staff orientations, we are making sure that we're keeping our staff separate. They are not going to be all coming together to do staff things. We are going to do everything we can for both campers and staff and camper families to make sure that we are not mixing, crossing over our bubbles and mixing our things and doing what we can to ensure safety with the pods. That is it for the Q&A. I noticed there are a couple things in chat. Bear with me a second. I'll see if I can't roll through these if there's anything. It's a question about waitlisting. I'll go ahead and let you know that when it comes to the wait list, what the advice that I'm giving families is, we know that there are campers who are signing up, and we know that there are many campers who unfortunately are already waitlisted. Applications, we have a greatly reduced camp size this year, so in that our programs were reduced. And so go ahead and sign up for the program you want, sign up for your first choice. If you have received the waitlist notification, please go into your CampMinder account under forms and documents. We have a waitlist form where you say, this was my first choice, this is my second choice. If I can't get in, please fill those out. We know that there will be a lot of movement this year. We know that campers may or may not be able to join. They may want to change their mind. It might be that something's a better fit. So please make sure you're filling out those wait lists. Make sure you sign up for the first choice, even if it says wait list. You can give us that backup, but we want to encourage everyone to sign up, just because we know there will be so much movement and fluid thing happening this year that we don't want someone to not apply. We don't want someone to not try to get in, because of the fact that again, we would like to get as many of our campers and camp families back to Camp JCC this summer. I think that was everything in the chat.
I want to thank everyone so much for coming. I'm really, really, really looking forward to camp this summer, being with your children, hopefully seeing you, just really normalizing this past year, and really having an opportunity to see all the campers again. We miss them. We miss the families. We miss everything about camp. So thank you, thank you, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I in particular know how hard it is to carve out time. So we really appreciate it. And please reach out.
Here, I'll put up our
to Eva and I. We are happy to communicate with you via email. I have found it easier oftentimes to have a conversation. We can certainly schedule phone calls. We are here to support you and answer questions to the best of our ability right now. Know that we're in this together and that we really want to collaborate and hear from you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being here. Heather and Eva, thank you for putting this on. And yeah, reach out if you have any questions. We in the camp office love to hear from you. Thank you for some of the positive well wishes. That's always very, very much appreciated through all of this. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, please reach out. And we look forward to seeing as many people as we can this summer back on Montrose Road. Have a great night, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.